Walking onto a used car lot today is like walking through a financial minefield blindfolded. You are surrounded by rows of shining, aggressively styled pickup trucks, all polished to perfection. The salesman is going to tell you that every single one of them is a great deal. But if you look closely, you will notice something terrifying. You will see trucks that are only 3 or 4 years old, already sitting on the used lot, completely abandoned by their first owners. Why are people walking away from these nearly brand new $60,000 machines so quickly? The men who actually fix these vehicles for a living know the exact answer. And because they know the answer, they play a completely different game. When an experienced, honest mechanic goes out to buy a vehicle for his own family, he does not look at the shiny 3-year-old trade-ins. He completely ignores them. Instead, he applies a very strict, unbreakable boundary. It is a secret guideline that saves him thousands of dollars in depreciation and keeps him entirely out of the repair shop. It is called the 10-year rule. If you are thinking about buying a used truck, you need to understand exactly what this rule is, why the experts swear by it, and how applying it to your own life will completely bulletproof your bank account, because the automotive industry crossed a very dark point of no return a decade ago. And if you buy on the wrong side of that line, you're going to pay a massive price. To understand the 10-year rule, you have to understand exactly what happened to the automotive manufacturing process about a decade ago. Roughly 10 to 12 years ago, the corporate executives in the automotive industry realized they had a problem. They were building trucks that were too reliable. A man could buy a truck, maintain it with basic tools, and drive it for 20 years without ever needing to step foot inside a dealership service center again. That was great for the working class, but it was absolutely terrible for corporate profit margins. So they fundamentally changed the blueprint. They stopped designing mechanical workhorses and started designing disposable electronics. They introduced massive digital touchscreens to control basic functions like heating and air conditioning. They wrapped the engines in miles of fragile wiring and delicate sensors that communicate through a proprietary software network. They made the vehicles incredibly complex, incredibly fragile, and completely impossible for a normal person to repair in their own driveway. When a mechanic looks at a truck built in the last few years, he sees a ticking financial time bomb. He sees a massive digital screen that will eventually go black, costing $3,000 to replace. He sees electronic modules that will inevitably fail and completely paralyze the vehicle. But when he looks at a truck that is at least 10 years old, he sees something entirely different. He sees the end of an era. He sees the last generation of vehicles that were actually built to be heavy-duty tools. He sees a machine where the climate control is still operated by a physical knob, and the engine is not choked to death by a fragile web of disposable electronic sensors. The 10-year rule is simply a line in the sand. It is a mechanic's way of filtering out the rolling computers and finding the actual trucks. Now, some people will hear this and think that mechanics want you to drive an ancient, rusted-out box from the 1980s with no air conditioning and terrible seats. But that is the absolute beauty of the 10-year rule. A truck that is 10 to 15 years old represents the ultimate sweet spot in automotive history. These vehicles are not ancient. They still have incredibly comfortable interiors. They have great air conditioning, power windows, solid sound systems, and modern safety features. They are incredibly comfortable to drive on the highway, and they look great in your driveway. But crucially, they were built just before the obsession with massive iPads in the dashboard. They were built before the manufacturers started locking every single component behind a digital software wall. If an alternator goes bad on a 10-year-old truck, you can go to the local auto parts store, buy a replacement for a fair price, and bolt it on yourself in an hour. The truck will start right up, and thank you for it. If an alternator goes bad on a brand new truck, you might have to take it to the dealership so their computer can officially introduce the new alternator to the truck's main software system, and they will charge you hundreds of dollars in labor just to press a button on a keyboard. The 10-year rule protects your independence. It ensures that when something eventually wears out, you have the freedom to take it to a local, independent mechanic who can fix it affordably, rather than being held hostage by the dealership's sterile, overpriced service center. It is the perfect balance. You get the comfort of a modern ride without the terrifying financial liability of a modern rolling computer. But the mechanical reliability is only half of the equation. The other reason mechanics strictly follow the 10-year rule is the brutal, undeniable math of the financial markets. When someone buys a brand new $80,000 truck, they are immediately hit with the most destructive force in personal finance: rapid depreciation. That vehicle loses thousands of dollars in value the absolute second the tires roll off the dealership lot. Over the first 5 years, the original owner will lose tens of thousands of dollars in invisible equity, all while making a crushing monthly payment of $1,000 or more. When you follow the 10-year rule, you let that first guy take the massive financial beating for you. By the time a well-maintained truck is 10 years old, the depreciation curve has completely flattened out. The massive loss of value has already occurred. This means you can buy a beautiful, reliable, heavy-duty machine for a fraction of its original price. And because the price is reasonable, you can do something that absolutely terrifies the Wall Street bankers. You can pay for it in cash. Imagine the psychological power of holding the physical pink slip in your hand. You do not owe the bank a single dime. You do not have an $800 payment hanging over your head on the first of every month. You do not need to carry extremely expensive full coverage luxury insurance. You have shielded your family's budget from the automotive debt trap. You are keeping your hard-earned money in your own pocket, building your own wealth, instead of funding the dealership owner's next vacation. The automotive industry spends billions of dollars every single year on aggressive advertising to make you feel insecure about what you drive. They want you to believe that a 10-year-old vehicle is a sign of failure. But the men who intimately understand how these machines are built know the truth. They know that driving a reliable, paid-off, decade-old truck is the ultimate sign of intelligence. It means you saw through the illusion. It means you chose financial freedom over a fragile plastic status symbol. The next time you feel the pressure to upgrade, or the next time you walk onto a used car lot, draw that line in the sand. Apply the 10-year rule. Look for the analog machines, look for the physical buttons, protect your paycheck, and keep the old iron running. Let me know down in the comments. What is the best truck from a decade ago that you would buy right now if you had the cash? Drop the exact year, make, and model below, because we need to build a list of the true survivors. If you are tired of the constant lies coming out of the modern automotive industry and you want to protect your wallet and your freedom, hit the subscribe button right now. Keep your guard up, keep your money safe, and I will see you in the next video.